Can have very little usage of my notes with this thing. I read, Winston Churchill said one time, if I don't read the media, I am not informed. If I do read the media, the papers, I am ill-informed. I pick up the newspaper, and it says about me coming to speak here, and it has no evidence whatsoever of my racism, yet they say that we're Islamophobic, racist, bigots, and all these things. And I look at the other papers, they say the same thing. I don't understand. I go to the airport all the time. I travel everywhere. I go to the book section, and I look at these books, and I see Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens. God is not great. Well, is that racist? Anybody wants to answer? Is it racist for Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens to say God is not great? What if the author decided to say Allah is not great? Would that be racist? Well, of course it will. Because in America we tend to be sensitive. And anybody criticizes Christianity is okay. But if you criticize Islam, you're a racist. You're an Islamophobe. I lived in this country for so many years. I've never learned that critiquing a religion is racism. I can critique any religion I want. It's a part of a freedom of speech. Now, to discriminate somebody as an employment, to say, oh, he's Muslim, I don't want to hire a Muslim, that would be racism. In fact, I have a business on the side that all my employees are Muslim. People don't know that. How am I racist? My best friend is Muslim, Muhammad from Afghanistan. How is that racism? You won't find a single line of evidence anywhere in the media that would quote the racist slurs that I ever made. Yet I'm called racist. I don't understand. This is the world that we live in today. When it comes to the issue of terrorism, there's only two options. Either terrorism can be excused, or there is no excuse for terrorism. Every one of you here tonight will have one of those two options to choose. I don't see any other third option. Either you can excuse terrorism, make an excuse, poverty, homelessness, occupation, all these excuses that are made for terrorism. Or there is no excuse for it. I happen to be from the school that there is absolutely no excuse for terrorism. Just like murder. Don't tell me your childhood. Don't tell me you were treated nasty when you were a child and that made you commit murder. Murder is murder. I respect people from all faiths. I don't harbor any hatred towards any person, religious or otherwise. In fact, I believe that it is my duty to die for an atheist to express his view that he doesn't want to believe in God. Because that's what this country is all about. But yet, sometimes the person that is coming to do something good for you is always being labeled as the bad guy. Sort of like the drug problem, you know? The cops become the bad guys, they're the pigs. Don't cooperate with the officers, don't cooperate with law enforcement. While the drug pushers who are making you feel good, they're the good guys. The same thing with this whole thing when it comes to radical Islam. You know, the ones who come to warn you about it, well, you gotta do some gymnastics and find ways to accuse them of something or to label them with something. It's all ad hominem, and you will see that maybe after the question and answer time, I usually get that ad hominem kind of thing, in which somebody comes up and tries to destroy you personally and goes below the belt so he can discredit you. Some other critics that in the paper say that Walid Shoebat has no authority to speak on Islam. he's not qualified to speak on Islam. You know, I don't understand this notion, because let's say there's a woman in Sudan who the kids decided to call the teddy bear Muhammad. I guess if she comes to America to speak about her experiences, well, she has no authority to speak about the Islamic world. She's not a scholar. In other words, only a scholar is qualified to speak on any subject. Our experiences don't count. I happen to be a product of an American mother and a Palestinian Muslim father. My father basically was Jordanian. He wasn't even Palestinian, because at his time there was no Palestine. He served the Jordanian army. My mother met my father in Humboldt State College. She fell in love. She brought my brother and my sister into life here in Eureka, California. She was 9 months pregnant. She went to visit the Middle East. She was a Presbyterian Christian. She went to visit the Middle East with my father, and when she got to the Middle East, in Bethlehem, I was born the first day my mother and father got there, and she was not allowed to go back to her homeland, to America. She was informed that the children are Muslim, she's Muslim, and this is my father's country, and she wasn't allowed to leave back to her country for 35 years. 35 years she was held against her will. I guess if my mother was here tonight and spoke, well, she's an Islamophobe. She has no qualification to talk about her experiences back in the Middle East. Why wasn't my mother allowed to go? Well, my family decided to find a job for my father, and my father basically wanted to raise the kids Muslim. My birth certificate said, father Muslim, mother Christian, child Muslim. Why was the child decided to be Muslim? Because the father is Muslim. I always like to argue and say, in 55 or so Muslim countries, there isn't a single Muslim country today that are signatory to the Hague Convention regarding the abduction of children and women. Why? Well, because Islamic Sharia law gives the status or the legal right for the husband to keep the wife. So if there is an abduction of a sort of like my mother, the Sharia law will go against it. Of course, I lived and grew up in the Middle East. I breathed the air of the Middle East. I went to school as a young child to a Christian school. I went to the Anglican Lutheran school in Beit Sahur, Bethlehem. And in the Lutheran school, I wasn't allowed to attend the Bible study. They had Bible studies. I wasn't allowed to attend because I was a Muslim. My birth certificate said Muslim. So I had to stay outside for hours, you know, as I studied the Bible and things like that. One day I decided to walk into the class. And I wanted to be like the rest of the kids. So I sat down for 2 years and I learned basically some biblical studies of the Middle East. But it was not the same biblical studies as it is in the States. Give you an example. All the biblical characters that were taught from the Bible, basically Abraham, Moses, even Jesus of Nazareth, they were all painted as Palestinian revolutionists. In fact, if you don't believe me, you could see Hanan Ashrawi, the right hand of Yasser Arafat. She would say, Jesus is a Palestinian from my country. In fact, many Palestinian Christian websites will paint Jesus on the cross with barbed wires wrapped around him because Jesus came to liberate the refugee camps of the Palestinians. The liberation theology of liberation that was part of the curriculum, even in the biblical studies, permeated the Holy Land. In fact, you see people like Mr. Wright, Pastor Wright. You've all seen him on TV. He paints things like that, skews things from the Bible, and it messes the election for Barack Obama. He causes a lot of problems for Barack Obama now because he also adheres. I'm not saying about Barack Obama. I don't know